The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Jason Zinnemann in the New York Times asks, what if The Daily Show used guest hosts permanently? Me being me, immediately overreacted to that and went, what? You're insane. But Jason writes, fill-ins for Trevor Noah have shown, well, they're not fill-ins for Trevor Noah. They're fill-ins for nobody. There is no host, Jason Zinnemann of the New York Times. They're not filling in for Trevor. He's gone. Jason writes, fill-ins for Trevor Noah have shown how exciting the lack of a permanent replacement could be. It's an option with an illustrious history in television. The most impressive accomplishment is how everyone, with the benefit of a typical Daily Show video and script, is at least fine. It's evidence that this vehicle, more than a quarter century old, has become a smooth-running, user-friendly machine, a strength and a weakness. You saw both sides in the Trevor Noah era, which was competent, charming, if a little dull. The current guest host shows are not that. They display passion, unpredictability, and the looming possibility of disaster, particularly in the interviews. Jason reminds us that back in the day, Johnny Carson always had guest hosts, and then in the 90s, when Letterman went over to CBS and Jay Leno took over The Tonight Show, the whole guest host thing kind of stopped for the most part until Jimmy Kimmel brought it back. Although when Letterman had, was it a heart attack? He had a couple guest hosts back in the day, and I forgot this happened, and I have shared the clip on the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. In 2003, the Late Show with David Letterman's guest host was Jimmy Fallon. It was Jimmy Fallon's first late night hosting gig, and Jason Zinnemann writes, watching it now reveals an altogether different Fallon, more sarcastic wiseacre than chipper enthusiast. It's clear he loved and was influenced by Letterman's early comedy, and one of the fun aspects of guest hosts is seeing comics working out their personas. So I shared that clip and I watched it. I was mesmerized. I like Jimmy Fallon. I've got some Jimmy Fallon stories. They're good ones. I'll save them for a different day. But when you watch young Jimmy Fallon hosting Letterman's show, doing the Letterman vibe, he even walks up into the camera the way Dave would. It's like, oh, you've got a different gear here that for whatever reason he's not doing on the NBC Tonight Show. The Facebook group is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. The Daily Show has announced some of the upcoming guest hosts. They include, finally, Roy Wood Jr., Desi Lydic, Ronnie Chang, Michael Costa, and Dulce Sloan. Roy Wood gets week of April 3rd. Check your calendar. Hey, that's Monday. Then Jordan Klepper. Desi on the 24th. Sloan May 1st. Costa May 8th. Pick somebody already, Comedy Central, huh? From CTV-W5, a weird article with Russell Peters. I shared it on Sunday on the Daily Comedy News Podcast Group page. And the article gets kind of into the booking of Russell Peters and the waiting for Russell Peters. They wrote, W5 went back and forth with Peters' people. There were scheduling conflicts on both sides. It took weeks of negotiations, and finally, we were given a day and time for an interview at Peters' California home, although it was almost canceled at the last minute because the comic was juggling touring and downtime. Sounds like he really wanted to do it. Juggling downtime? The W5 team arrived at Peters' sprawling contemporary 8,000 square foot home in LA's San Bernardino Valley. We set up on the main floor in a room jam-packed with Peters' memorabilia next to an open-tread steel and wooden double staircase that ascends to the upper floor against a wall of glass. Several of his comedy buddies sat outside on the covered patio next to an azure-colored pool. Unfortunately, they didn't mention who his comedy buddies are. Would love to know. Peters' wife, Allie, greeted us warmly while waiting for her husband to show up. She casually sat on the staircase and chatted about the home's architecture, so time out. So Russell's buddies are hanging poolside, and Russell's not even there? All right. W5 says, we also talked about the community, where in June of 94, residents had a front row seat to the famous O.J. Simpson high-speed police chase. A roar of a sports car pulling into the driveway signaled the arrival of the man of the hour, who entered the house and breezed past us to chat with friends and family. It was only when he recognized us that Peters' laser-focused humor and charm shifted into high gear. He was excited to chat with a group of Canadians about all things Canada, excited to make me laugh. The interview was quintessential Peters. Engaging, energetic, and unapologetic, he said, we're free thinkers. The minute you try to put reins on our brains, you ruin the game. Does he have any regrets? He says, not really, but he tells us, we made gay jokes freely, and we wouldn't just say gay, we would say the F word, not that F word, the other F word. And that was perfectly normal back then and perfectly acceptable. But your job's to push the envelope. Then you understand that the envelope keeps moving away, so I was constantly chasing the envelope. Dave Chappelle will appear on Killer Mike's upcoming album. During South by Southwest, Killer Mike held a private listening session for the project inside a cathedral. One guest in attendance was Milwaukee radio host DJ Kenny Perez, who told fans to run and embrace it when it drops. He said there are collabs with Andre 3000, Lil Wayne, Dave Chappelle, and more. Sam Morril was on the Good One podcast back in October, and I missed it, but there's some really great stories in there that I'm chipping away at. One of them, he said, Gary Gulman is great at getting laughs out of places you would never think to get laughs. I remember he had a joke where he just said karate. That shouldn't be that funny, but it is because it's very honest to his voice. He would just say, I don't know why you guys are laughing. That's the proper pronunciation. You learn to get laughs in between the jokes, and the more you write, you need those because, holy cow, storytellers, guys like Tom Segura, Jim Jeffries, people who write these long stories, they have to find those little laughs. But joke writers need that too. You learn how to bring yourself to a joke so that it's not just a joke like a joke book joke. Patton Oswalt will speak at William and Mary's commencement ceremony on May 19th. I was on the William and Mary website, and I loved how serious they took all of this, and they wrote some paragraphs, and I'm going to share them with you. Oswalt, who was known for such roles as Spence on the TV show King of Queens and the voice of Remy in the movie Ratatouille, will receive an honorary degree at the event scheduled for blah, blah, blah. When asked about giving the commencement keynote at his alma mater, the comedian, quick to show his Williamsburg knowledge, simply stated, I would like a bag of bread ends and a dip from the cheese shop for my services. Thank you. And then they had his official bio, Patton Oswalt, 91. Oswalt started performing in comedy clubs as a student at William and Mary, where he wrote for The Flat Hat and was a member of Phi Kappa Tau and the Fencing Club. You didn't know that, did you? Did you know Patton fenced? You didn't know that. After graduating with a degree in English, he embarked on a career in entertainment, earning accolades for his more than 200 TV and film credits, as well as comedy specials and books. Oswalt has been prolific as an actor, appearing in such films as The Circle. What's that? The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, Zoolander, The Informant, Observe and Report, Magnolia, and Starsky and Hutch. He received critical acclaim and a Gotham Award nomination for his part in Big Fan. And he was nominated for a Critics' Choice Award for his role in Young Adults. On TV, he can be seen in leading roles in shows ranging from The Heart She Holler, to The United States of Terra. Well, Patton, those are not the strongest of credits. He has also appeared on such series as Parks and Recreation, Veep, Justified, 2.5 Men, and Seinfeld, where he made his acting debut. He recently competed on Celebrity Jeopardy, finishing the tournament in second place and earning $250,000 for the nonprofit Alice's Kids. His voice can also be heard in many animated films and shows, including The Secret Life of Pets 2, Rick and Morty, and Archer. Are you watching Kunk on Earth? You should be. It's on Netflix. Kunk on Earth is currently the number one thing on my top funny things of 2023 list. It's not stand-up, so it's not the top stand-up special. So I have like a list within a list. It's the top funniest things, and then a subset of that is the top stand-ups. But the overall number one funniest thing is Kunk on Earth. I'm now watching it for the second time. The Wall Street Journal spoke to Diane Morgan, who plays Philomena Kunk, and she says, as Philomena Kunk, I narrate the history of civilization and ask posh experts funny questions with a straight face. They took me seriously at first, but now the cat's out of the bag and they play along. What's her favorite Kunk line? School was far easier in Shakespeare's day because you didn't have to study Shakespeare. She says she no longer watches much comedy except Curb Your Enthusiasm, and adds, if Larry David stops making those, I don't know what I'll do.
Welcome to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald.
And I'm your co-host, Matt McButter. We'll be talking to people who specialize in different ways of inhabiting their own consciousness, from artists to yoga teachers to scientists. We've even got a professional magician.
We're going to ask them questions like, what is consciousness? Why does it tickle? And what is magic anyway? Is it just card tricks, or is it the fact that your little speck of consciousness is part of a perfect possibility machine?
Find us wherever you get your podcasts and at storicmedia.com.
L.A. Eater caught up with Atsuko Okatsuka. She immigrated to the U.S. at age 10 and settled in West L.A. at her uncle's apartment with her mother and grandmother. She said, it took a while to get used to the sprawl of L.A. and the less than dependable public transit. She said, I was on Colby Avenue near Barrington. I did think, God, we're walking a lot just to get to McDonald's. And then if we didn't want to eat at McDonald's, it was just Marie Callender's right next door. So in my head, it was either McDonald's or fine dining. At home, meals were mostly cooked by Grandma, who served simple stir-fried vegetables, steamed white rice, and sweet, slimy chicken. Atsuko said, as a kid, I didn't really dabble in spices and things like that. I was very simple. I just went with whatever flavors the adults recommended. Japanese curry is probably the most flavorful thing that I was eating back then. When I'm eating Japanese food now, I want simple flavors. If I do get rolls, it'll just be one fish in it. I won't do the ones with 3 or 4 fishes, flakes of tempura, and drizzles of different things. I usually don't go for the ones that are named the Obama roll. All right, when you want to celebrate, where do you go? She said, Cheesecake Factory. Go big or go home. I don't really eat that typically day to day, so we're like, where do people go or used to go before they got all cool? The Olive Gardens, Cheesecake Factories, Red Lobsters. I really like the jambalaya there. When it comes to American or Western food, I really get into the creamy, the ranch, the cheese. So that's the time for me to get gluttonous. You can barely make it out of there alive, but I kind of like that. Hey, it's my birthday. Sounds like Paget Brewster is not in the Community movie. She tweeted last week, I miss Frankie Dart too. I hope to get a call. I'll be in the movie. Even just one line or no line, standing behind someone. That surprised me. I thought that of the extended cast in there. I mean, if you can have Jonathan Banks in anything, you got to ask him, right? Professor Hickey? I would have him in. The Melbourne Comedy Festival kicks off, doing the story today because I understand how time zones work, and it's probably already Wednesday in Melbourne as you're listening to this. More than 600 shows. Melbourne is an awesome city. Guys, invite me down there next year. I'll tell my wife, hey, I got to go down to Melbourne for a month and record podcasts. She'll be happy with that. The fun kicks off with the famed opening night comedy All-Stars Super Show, this year hosted by Hannah Gadsby. Concrete Playground writes, other big-ticket highlights to follow include the National Grand Final of esteemed open mic competition Raw Comedy and the Deadly Funny National Grand Final, set to spotlight the country's funniest First Nations talent. Some U.S. comedians heading down there, the Lucas Brothers, Patty Harrison, Shalua Sharp, and Sheng Wang. Hey, if you're in Melbourne, don't miss Sheng Wang. I'm looking at the lineup for Wednesday night, and boy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17... Wow, 20, 25. Wow, there's a ton of shows tonight. All right, I'm not going to read them all to you. Let's see what catches my eye as I scroll down. Would it be stupid to go all the way to Melbourne at 6 o'clock to see British Invasion when there are 5 different shows at 6 o'clock probably, right? Same question at 6:15 for the full Irish. Same question for 6:15. Keep calm, it's British comedy. Boy, I am scrolling down here. There's a good 50 shows tonight. It's insane. Joe Avate, I've heard of. That's at 8:15. Let's go see that. And then 9:45, Best of Melbourne Comedy. We've come all this way. That sounds like a good pair, right? Boy, I'm scrolling down here. I can't get to the bottom, and I keep checking. Wait, am I on to the next day? No. Here, let me pause the recording, and I'll actually count. All right, I've counted. There's 115 shows on Wednesday night. That's insane. 115. And I've checked the website. I'm not looking at the whole festival. That's just Wednesday night. I also saw a show called Lord of the Zings, a Kiwi comedy showcase. That could be fun too. And on Tuesday night, now if you're in Melbourne, by the time you're hearing this, you've missed all this. But us Americans, if we have a time machine, we can somehow travel. I don't know how that works, but also like 100 shows on Tuesday night. What a big festival. So we'll be keeping an eye on this for the next month or so. But wow. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Melbourne is an awesome city, a walkable city. Spent a couple days there, loved it. If you want to hear about that, check out my travel podcast. That podcast is called Travel is Back, and go down to like the end of season 2. So like, I don't know, September, October, somewhere in there. I talked about Melbourne in an episode. Wonderful place if you can ever get there. One of the greatest cities on the earth. That's your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow. Who doesn't like vacations? Do you need some inspiration for your next road trip? Are you excited to get out there and explore the world again? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac. My podcast is called Travel is Back. Travel is Back is travel for regular people. We hop in the car, we fly coach, we use our miles, we eat at normal places, we stay at normal places. So what I do is I hop in the car, I grab my portable recorder, and I go somewhere. Season 3 kicks off with a road trip to Key West. You can check out the back catalog. There are popular episodes covering Chicago, Nashville, Vancouver, Seattle, a whole bunch more. Travel is Back, road trips for regular people. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your shows. These are quick, these are casual, and it's for regular people like you. Travel is Back.